Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Drew. This is JustAGuyLinux. And first and foremost, it's been about 2 weeks since my last video. But in that time, the Tech Over Tea podcast with Brody Robertson came out. And for those of you that watched that because of me, thank you very much. It was greatly appreciated. I saw a lot of thumbs up and people that I knew from this channel, probably a lot of the same people. But I will say that I did get a nice bump in the number of subscribers over the last 10 days. And I got to believe it's because of this interview. So for those of you who are new to the channel, thanks for joining. And I'm over 6,000 subscribers now, which is unbelievable. So thanks. And let's get started. As most of you know, I've been looking at window managers that happen to be in the Debian repo over the last month. And yeah, there's been a couple breaks where I did this DWM and this Qtile video, but by and large, I've been sticking to stacking window managers, and then I went deep into AwesomeWM, which is what you're currently looking at. In fact, I liked AwesomeWM so much that I was considering making it my daily driver on my production machine. And let me explain why. Naturally, as I am using DWM as my daily driver, I am going to compare it at times, but it's an apt comparison because AwesomeWM began as a fork of DWM, a fork of DWM that incorporated a lot of additional functionality. So basically it's a patch DWM. I mean, it is definitely changed over time, and because of Lua is incredibly powerful and extensible. One of the things that I find unbelievably cool about AwesomeWM is the fact that you manage the entire configuration in one directory and generally only need 3 files to do anything. That's remarkable because, like I said, if I am comparing it to DWM, it's going to be significantly different. In fact, you're going to need an SL status for a bar and so on. Well, RC Lua handles everything, okay? Now, if you're like me and don't have a programming background, you might make a bad assumption and look at this and say, oh, there's only 3 files here in this configuration directory. This can't be that challenging. And it will be shocking to you because I found it very challenging, and I'm not a beginning window manager user. In fact, I really liked being challenged. But if you're, like I said, if you're more of a beginner user in this space, I would say go i3 or BSPWM and not start with AwesomeWM. Now, having said that, you may not need to edit or modify the rc.lua file all that much to get the kind of functionality that you want as a beginning user. You can always look at these 3 videos, in particular 7A and 7B, which will get you, I don't know, a large percentage of the way there. Not to mention, if you look in my dot files at GitHub, which will be in a link in the description below, you will be able to copy the 3 files that I have in that particular configuration directory, and you may end up, saying, "Oh, well, that's good. That's all I need." Now, but looking at the rc.lua file, this looks like, reads like, and is a programming language, and that is the reason why I don't believe I gave it a fair shake until now. I mean, I looked at this probably over a year ago and thought to myself, yeah, I don't know, this isn't for me. At least at this point, this is not for me. And it may not be for you either, but like I said, I really gave it a shot at displacing my DWM config that I'm really enjoying right now. Beyond that, I really dig being able to resize windows like this. This is way cool. All right, let's not take so long, but I do want to revisit a few more of these, and let's go with Openbox. And you're going to see right off the bat that I actually have 3 Tent 2 panels initialized on start. My auto start is pretty basic. It's using nitrogen to manage wallpaper, and then, like I said before, it's opening up 3 separate Tent 2 panels. I'm going to go over here to Thunar, and in the user.config tent2 directory, there are 3 separate tent2rc files, one that's default, and really the only thing that tent2rc is doing is it's got one thing, and that's this application finder. That's it. Now the workspace tent2rc is something we need to look at, but then there's also this this right panel that has a systray in it and a couple different executors. So I'm going to go over to workspace 1, okay, and I'm going to open up the settings and tent2 settings, okay, and now I'm going to double click on this workspace.tent2rc. Now it does take a little bit of time. I don't know why it's taking so much time. Maybe it's just my particular build right now. But we are simply going to look at the panel, the way it's constructed for the taskbar. Okay, so when I look at this, the panel is centered. It's using 50%. It also has compact checked on. As far as items are concerned, there is only taskbar. Show a taskbar for each desktop. Distribute size between taskbars. I'm using the left task alignment. There is some padding here and spacing. It's showing the desktop name, horizontal spacing, vertical padding, and that's it. Let me go to task buttons, toggle, as well as show icon, show tooltips, and thumbnail. Okay. And yes, there are some max height and padding with that as well. Okay. Now what I like about this, I'm going to go ahead and just say, okay. All right. And close. Now, let's just say I want to move something from one to another. You can see I just dragged the Thunar, which was on workspace 3, into workspace 1, which was already active. And that's pretty nice. So also, if I want to say, I'm going to put that on workspace 5, so I just say Super Shift 5. And not only does it move it to the 5th workspace, but it also follows it. So I can go back also to workspace 1 and have a clean slate. Now the app finder is actually using the XFCE4 app finder on this particular Openbox configuration. There's a lot to like about this. And if I wanted to use a floating window manager, this is what I would use. This is without question what I would use. One of the things that's cited as a negative is that Openbox uses this XML file for its configuration. Now, I don't think this is a big deal, but it is kind of a dated notion at this point. And I think that some people will have a problem in using the XML. However, it's not so daunting that it can't be done. And not to mention, like I said, I've got this Openbox configuration in my dot files, easily accessible if that's something you're interested in. Again, if this is a deal breaker for you, there are plenty of other options out there. Another issue might be the fact that Openbox is stable. Last time it was released was in 2015. So not being maintained, but stable and feature complete at this point. Something that I'm kind of interested in is this LabWC. Let me go to the top here. LabWC is a Wayland compositor that looks a great deal like Openbox. And in fact, inspired by Bunsen Labs, which is one of the best Openbox experiences that you can find. And if I look even further down, configuration with the following 5 files being used: rc.xml, menu.xml, autostart. Strange, right? That this is a Wayland compositor, but at the same time, it makes people who are Openbox users very comfortable in using this particular configuration. So this might be something that I look at sooner rather than later. The last thing I want to touch on in this particular video is Fluxbox. Now, I didn't expect to like it as much as I do, but if I had to live in Fluxbox, I'd be okay with that. I mean, I don't know that I like it as much as Openbox, but it's kind of in the running. So let's just go ahead and log in. I am using Nitrogen again for this particular window manager. I think in the future, I'll just use something like Fay. That way, if I do switch between one window manager to another, it's not going to restore the same wallpaper. But that's something for you to consider if you're using any of these window managers. There are 2 ways to launch applications in Fluxbox. The normal way is the right-click menu, and I really like this one. 2 things that you should know about this. One is that the menu has been built by using this particular application called FB Menu Gen. We built this actually in the previous video. I will try to link to the previous video somewhere up here. Also, it's using a configuration that has been borrowed from Archcraft. Let me see if I can find that real quick. User styles, and it says Archcraft here. Okay, so full disclosure, that was a fantastic find for me. Another thing that you can, or another application that you can use rather for launching applications is simple, Rofi. I'm using Superspace to launch Rofi. Either one is available to you, and both are fantastic. One thing that does bear repeating is the names of the workspaces. So let me talk about that for another second or two. So I'm going to go down to Fluxbox and workspace list, and you'll see the names of the 10 workspaces that are that I have. You can remove them if you want, or you can rename them. It's up to you. One thing that's interesting is there are keybinds for all of these. So if I say Super 2, you can see here Super 3, Super 4, where Genie is open, Super 5, and so on. Now, while Genie is here, I did make a change to this init Fluxbox init file. I actually removed a couple things from this particular line. But what I left was this previous workspace, which is basically this arrow right here, which allows you to move from one workspace to another. As you know, and obviously the keybinds work the same way. The workspace name, the next workspace, the icon bar, and then the clock, and then the sys tray. Okay. And that's really all that's required, but I do want to talk about the icon bar for a minute. Now I'm going to go ahead and close Genie using Super Q, and I'm going to go to Super 3, which is the Files, Workspace, and Open Thunar. Now I don't necessarily like having the icon and with the associated application on the screen. As you can tell, like if I right-click, I don't have any icons for any of these applications either. So it's just a personal preference. You can always get this to work. And if you want it in your bar, all you really need to do is go to the icon mode and say show pictures and turn this checkbox on, and it will show. Let me just do it really quickly. And there it is, you can see. So I'm going to turn it back off again, show pictures, and there we go. Okay, so another thing is if you are on a different workspace, which is workspace 1 right now, you'll see that Thunar is still in the active bar, and that's by design, at least from my perspective. Now you can again turn this off. So you'll say, I only want workspace. Well, that turns it off. So if I turn, if I open up Tilix, for example, I don't know that Thunar is on the third workspace at all unless I just remember it. Okay, so if I go to Super 3, there is Thunar, but I forgot that I forgot Tilix was on the first workspace. Unless you say, I want all windows showing the applications that are currently open. So this is workspace 1 and Tilix is active, so it's purple. But you say, oh, Thunar, I'm going to go to that. And if you click on that, it automatically takes you to the proper workspace, which is 3, and it brings that application into focus. Probably the main reason why I put Fluxbox so close to Openbox is because, from my perspective, this is a more aesthetically pleasing look than Openbox. And it's probably my own fault. I could probably make Openbox look a whole lot better than I did. But I like the way this looks, and I like this right-click panel, and there's a lot to like about Fluxbox. Now, I think that there is a trade-off when it comes to functionality in the bar. And let me just go there for a second. So I'm going to go back to workspace 1 and open up Firefox. And I'm going to go to workspace 8, and I'm going to open up GIMP. And they're actually covering up there we go. So I can switch between these. Actually, let me move this out of the way. So I can switch between these easily, and it goes from one workspace to the other. It doesn't really put anything in order, and it doesn't tell you specifically what workspace each one of these is a part of. And maybe, again, this might be something that I'm missing, okay? However, the functionality of Openbox in that taskbar tint 2 panel is pretty darn good. And if you don't remember what that looks like, let me go ahead and go to that. Same thing we're going to do is I am in the first workspace, and I'm going to open up Firefox and go to the fourth and open up Thunar. And let's go and open up, I don't know if I have there we go. And I'm going to go to the 8th workspace and open up GIMP. So each one of these you can see is an icon within its own workspace. So to me, this functionality is kind of missing when I look at Fluxbox, but overall, I like the way Fluxbox looks a little bit more. And that's, again, to each his own, right? So anyway, this concludes my wrap up of my window manager review on, and I still might go back, but I just wanted to wrap up where things are currently in this series. So gotta say, I appreciate all of you who have watched, and I'll see you soon.